The battering ram hit Bumpy Johnson's front door at exactly 11:47 p.m. 6 NYPD officers stormed into the brownstone on 139th Street, a building that everyone in Harlem knew housed one of Bumpy's most profitable illegal gambling operations. Roulette tables, card games, policy banks, millions of dollars flowing through every month. Captain Patrick Donnelly led the raid personally. He'd been planning it for weeks, got the warrant signed by a friendly judge, assembled his most aggressive team. Tonight was the night he'd finally nail Bumpy Johnson. "NYPD, nobody move," Donnelly shouted as his team flooded into the main room. What they found stopped them cold. The gambling floor was empty. No tables, no dealers, no customers. Just an empty room with fresh paint and new carpeting. But seated in the center, at a single mahogany desk with a crystal glass of bourbon, was Bumpy Johnson himself. He was reading a newspaper, completely unfazed by 6 armed cops surrounding him. He didn't even look up. "Gentlemen," Bumpy said calmly, turning a page, "you're late. I expected you at 11:30. Donnelly's face flushed red. "Where is it? Where's the operation?" "What operation, Captain? I'm just sitting in my legitimate business office. I own this building. Check the deed if you like." "Bullshit. We have witnesses. We have surveillance reports." "Witnesses to what? A man sitting in his own property reading the Wall Street Journal?" One of the officers, a rookie named Patterson, started checking the other rooms. "Captain, there's nothing here. No equipment, no money, no—" The lights went out. All of them. Simultaneously. Before anyone could react, they heard the unmistakable sound of the front door slamming shut, then locks clicking, heavy bolts sliding into place. Donnelly spun around, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. He ran to the door, tried the handle, locked from the outside. He threw his shoulder against it, solid steel reinforced door. It didn't budge. "What the hell, Johnson?" When Donnelly turned back around, his flashlight found Bumpy still sitting at his desk, a small lamp now illuminating his face. He was smiling, not a friendly smile, a predator's smile. "Captain Donnelly, you and your men are going to be my guests for a while. You can't hold police officers. That's kidnapping. That's—" "Is it?" Bumpy stood slowly, adjusting his cufflinks. "Because from where I'm sitting, 6 armed men just broke into my private property without cause. No gambling equipment found, no illegal activity witnessed. Just harassment of a black businessman by racist cops." He walked toward them, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "See, here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here as my guests. You're not under arrest. I'm not a cop. You're not hostages. I'm not making demands. You're just visiting, against your will, in a building you illegally raided. The department knows we're here. They'll send backup." Bumpy's smile widened. "Will they? Let's find out." He pulled out a phone, a landline connected to God knows where, and dialed. "Yes, this is an anonymous tipster. I'd like to report 6 NYPD officers taking bribes from a gambling operation on 139th Street. Yes, I saw it with my own eyes. Captain Donnelly and his whole team. They're splitting the take right now." He hung up. Donnelly's face went white. "You son of a—" "Now your department thinks you're dirty. They think you're on the take. So when you don't report back in, when you disappear for a few hours, what are they going to think? That you got grabbed, or that you ran with the bribe money?" One of the officers, a sergeant named Murphy, stepped forward. "Johnson, you're making this worse. Just let us go and we'll forget this happened." "Forget what happened? You mean forget that you raided my legitimate property? Forget that you've been harassing my businesses for months? Forget that Captain Donnelly here has been on a personal crusade to clean up Harlem by targeting every black-owned establishment while ignoring the Irish mob's operations in Hell's Kitchen? Murphy had no response to that because it was absolutely true. "Sit down, gentlemen," Bumpy said, gesturing to chairs that suddenly appeared as lights came on in the room. Memphis Red and 4 other men had emerged from hidden doors, all armed, all watching the cops carefully. "You're going to be here for a while. Might as well get comfortable." Hour 2. The 6 officers were separated into 3 rooms, 2 per room, under constant guard. They weren't cuffed, weren't hurt. They were just stuck. Donnelly and Murphy were together in what looked like a converted office. 2 of Memphis Red's men stood by the door, saying nothing, just watching. "This is insane," Murphy whispered. "He can't actually think he'll get away with this." "He's not trying to get away with it," Donnelly said, his mind racing. "He's making a point. He's showing us that he can grab 6 cops in the middle of a raid, and nobody can stop him. The commissioner will do exactly what Bumpy wants him to do, because right now we're the ones who look dirty. That anonymous tip he called in? By tomorrow morning, every newspaper in the city will be running stories about cops on the take. So what do? We wait, and we pray Bumpy's point doesn't involve us ending up in the East River." Hour 6. Meanwhile, the NYPD was in chaos. The raid team had gone radio silent, no check-ins, no updates. Commissioner William McAllister had tried calling the precinct, nothing. Tried sending a follow-up unit to 139th Street. The building was dark, doors locked, no sign of the original team. And then the anonymous tip about corruption had hit the switchboard. McAllister sat in his office at 5:30 a.m., his head in his hands, facing the worst-case scenario. Either his officers had been grabbed by Bumpy Johnson, which would be a massive embarrassment, or they really were dirty and had fled with bribe money, which would be a career-ending scandal. His phone rang, private line, number he didn't recognize. "Commissioner McAllister." "Good morning, Commissioner. This is Bumpy Johnson." McAllister nearly dropped the phone. "Johnson, where are my men?" "Your men are fine. They're enjoying my hospitality. Clean beds, hot meals, even some entertainment. I had someone bring in magazines. Cops like detective stories, right? This is kidnapping. You'll have every what, Commissioner? Every cop in the city raiding Harlem. That'll go over well in the newspapers. White police force invades black neighborhood over missing officers who may have been taking bribes." Bumpy, let that sink in. "Here's the situation, Commissioner. Your Captain Donnelly has been harassing my legitimate businesses for months. He's conducted 14 raids in the last 6 weeks, all on black-owned establishments. Found exactly 0 illegal activity because we're smarter than he is. But he keeps coming back, keeps disrupting my operations, keeps costing me money. That's his job. His job is law enforcement, not racial harassment. So I've decided to teach you and him a lesson about jurisdiction, respect, and the cost of targeting people who can fight back." "What do you want?" "I want a meeting, you, me, and 3 witnesses from the NAACP. We're going to discuss the NYPD's policing strategies in Harlem. We're going to talk about the disproportionate raids on black businesses. We're going to create a formal agreement about how your department operates in my neighborhood." "I can't negotiate with a criminal." "Then your 6 officers are going to have a very long stay. I've got enough food and entertainment to keep them comfortable for weeks. Question is, how long can you afford to have them missing? How long before the newspapers start asking questions? How long before the mayor starts demanding answers?" McAllister was silent, calculating. "I want proof they're alive. I want to talk to Donnelly." "Hold on." Hour 7. Captain Donnelly was brought to the phone. "Commissioner? Donnelly, are you hurt? Has he—" "I'm fine. We're all fine. He's treating us honestly, like hotel guests who can't leave. But sir, he's serious. He's got at least 20 armed men in this building. If you try to raid it, people will die. And he's got documentation, photos, recordings, evidence of every raid we've conducted in Harlem over the past 6 months. Documentation of what? Of us finding nothing, of us harassing legitimate businesses, of us, sir, it doesn't look good. If this goes public, it'll look like we've been targeting black establishments without cause. McAllister's stomach dropped because Donnelly was right. The optics would be devastating. Put Johnson back on. Bumpy's voice returned. Convinced now? What exactly do you want in this agreement? Simple. The NYPD stops conducting unwarranted raids in Harlem. If you have probable cause, real probable cause, not just, I don't like that black man, then you come in respectfully. You knock. You show warrants. You conduct searches professionally. No more battering rams at midnight. No more destroying property without finding anything illegal. And if I agree, then your men come home safe. Nobody knows they were here, and the anonymous tip about corruption gets retracted. I'll even provide an affidavit saying it was a misunderstanding. You're blackmailing me. No, Commissioner, I'm negotiating. Blackmail would be if I threatened to release the photos I have of your officers planting evidence in a Harlem speakeasy last month. The line went dead silent. You're bluffing. Officer Patterson, August 14th, 127th Street. He planted a bag of marijuana in the back office of the Red Rooster. I've got 3 angles of video. Want me to send copies to the Times? McAllister felt the room spin. If that video existed, if it went public, how do I know you'll keep your word? How do I know you won't use this against me later? Because I'm not interested in destroying you, Commissioner. I'm interested in being left alone to run my businesses. Give me that, and you'll never hear from me again. Keep sending your goons to harass me, and I'll make your life hell. Hour 12. The meeting was arranged for 2 p.m. at the Abyssinian Baptist Church, neutral ground, with Reverend Adam Clayton Powell, Jr., mediating along with 3 NAACP representatives. Commissioner McAllister arrived looking like he hadn't slept because he hadn't. Bumpy Johnson arrived looking immaculate in a tailored suit, carrying a leather briefcase. The negotiation took 4 hours. The NAACP representatives presented documented evidence of NYPD harassment in Harlem. 127 raids in the past year, only 9 arrests, millions in property damage, and a clear pattern of targeting black businesses, while ignoring similar operations in white neighborhoods. McAllister tried to defend his department's actions, but the evidence was overwhelming. Finally, an agreement was reached. The NYPD would establish an oversight committee for raids in predominantly black neighborhoods. All raid warrants would require documented probable cause reviewed by a civilian board. Officers conducting raids would wear identification and follow strict protocols. Property damage during raids would be compensated if no arrests were made. Captain Donnelly would be reassigned to a desk job. In exchange, Bumpy's 6 guests would be released immediately. The corruption allegations would be retracted. The video evidence of planted evidence would be destroyed. Bumpy would cooperate with legitimate investigations, meaning he'd make sure his illegal operations were better hidden. The agreement was signed at 6:15 p.m. hour 38. The 6 NYPD officers were released on 139th Street at exactly 1:47 a.m., 38 hours after the raid began. They walked out of the building, blinking in the streetlights, completely unharmed but thoroughly shaken. A police van was waiting to pick them up. As they climbed in, Bumpy Johnson appeared in the doorway behind them. "Gentlemen," he called out, "I hope you enjoyed your stay, and I hope you learned something important." Captain Donnelly turned back. "What's that?" "That when you come into Harlem, you're in my world. You follow my rules. And if you forget that, if you think your badge makes you untouchable, I can make you disappear for as long as I want." He smiled that predator's smile again. "Sleep well, officers. And, Captain, enjoy your new desk job. I hear property records is lovely this time of year." The van drove away. Bumpy watched it go, then turned to Memphis Red standing beside him. "Think they learned their lesson?" "If they didn't, they're dumber than I thought." "Good, because I'm tired of dealing with cops who think they can push us around. Time they understood that Harlem isn't their playground. It's our home, and we protect it." The next morning, the story never made the newspapers, not the real story anyway. The official report said the officers had been conducting an extended undercover operation that required radio silence. No one believed it, but no one could prove otherwise. In Harlem, the story spread like wildfire. Bumpy Johnson had grabbed 6 cops during a raid, held them for 38 hours, and forced the NYPD Commissioner to negotiate. Raids in Harlem dropped by 90% in the following months. Captain Donnelly spent the rest of his career in property records, never speaking publicly about what happened in that brownstone. And Bumpy Johnson? He continued running his operations, now with an implicit understanding with the NYPD. "We stay out of your way, you stay out of ours." But the real legacy of those 38 hours wasn't the agreement or the reduced raids. It was the message sent to every cop, every prosecutor, every authority figure who thought they could intimidate Harlem. "You're not untouchable. Your badge doesn't protect you here. And if you come after Bumpy Johnson, you better be prepared for him to come after you." Not with violence, but with something far more effective. The kind of strategic humiliation that makes you wish he'd just shot you instead. Because spending 38 hours as the guest of the man you were trying to arrest, comfortable, well-fed, and completely powerless, that kind of embarrassment doesn't fade. It haunts you. It reminds you every single day that you're not as powerful as you thought you were. And it makes you damn sure you never underestimate Bumpy Johnson again. Officer Patterson, the rookie on Donnelly's team, quit the force 6 months later. In his exit interview, when asked why, he said simply, "Because I learned that in Harlem, Bumpy Johnson is the law, and I'd rather find a different line of work than pretend otherwise." That quote never made it into official records, but it circulated through NYPD break rooms for years. A warning, a reminder, that some men can't be arrested because they're smarter than the system trying to cage them.